Summer of 1944. Fields of war-torn France. An entire Allied armored division moves toward the German lines. Hundreds of heavy tanks, row after row of military trucks. Thousands of battle-ready soldiers. And yet it was all a lie. The tanks, made of inflatable rubber, the soldiers, a crew of artists, actors, and sound engineers, the roaring artillery, a tape recording blasting from hidden trees. Welcome to Dusty Dossiers. Today we open file number 002. Now, let's dive into the dossier. It was officially called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army, activated by the United States Army in 1944. Their mission was simple, but insane to fool Nazi intelligence. Not with bullets, not with steel, with pure illusion. Who recruited them? Not veteran generals. Not hardened mercenaries. The military scouted art schools, theater stages, design studios, young creators from Broadway and New York. Among them, future icons like fashion designer Bill Blass and painter Ellsworth Kelly. They weren't handed heavy machine guns, they were handed canvas, wood, air pumps, wire spool audio gear. Their canvas was the front line. Their art form was deception. The unit operated in three distinct branches. First, the visual illusionists. Their job was to build an army out of thin air. Literally. They designed inflatable Sherman tanks, heavy cannons, and fake trucks. In less than 20 minutes, a bare field looked like a heavily armored fortress. From high in the sky, German spy planes took photographs. Nazi commanders studied the images. They saw a terrifying force waiting to strike. On the ground, it was a bizarre sight. An inflatable tank weighed less than 90 pounds. Two soldiers could literally pick up a tank and turn it around. If a stray enemy patrol walked too close, the illusion would shatter in a second. So the artists took detail to an obsessive level. They didn't just inflate the decoys, they dragged heavy wooden logs behind trucks, carving realistic deep tread marks into the mud, making it look like 60-ton steel monsters had just rolled through. Visuals were only half the trick. Second branch, sonic deception. The sound engineers traveled to actual combat zones, recording the roaring engines of real tank divisions, troops shouting commands, the metallic clank of heavy treads. They compiled these sounds onto rare wire recorders, then mounted massive industrial speakers onto the backs of trucks. At night, deep in dark European woods, they flipped the power switch. The sound blasted across hills and valleys, carrying for up to 15 miles. German listening posts, miles away, huddled in their trenches. They heard the deafening roar of hundreds of approaching armored vehicles. They reported to Berlin. An entire armored corps is assembling in the dark. In reality, it was just a few trucks with loudspeakers playing a tape. Then came the third branch, theatrical impersonation. The actors, a handful of men, would put on fake badges of high-ranking generals and colonels. They would casually drive into local French villages near the front line. They sat in crowded cafes, drinking wine, talking loudly about fake troop movements, knowing full well German spies were listening from the corner. Other men played ordinary soldiers hanging out in bars, dropping subtle, false clues about where the next big attack would land. The Nazi intelligence network swallowed the bait every single time. False reports flooded German headquarters. German forces shifted real troops, real artillery, and real armor to defend against an army made of rubber and sound. The Ghost Army executed over 20 major deception missions across Europe, and they did it with almost no weapons to defend themselves. If the enemy saw through the bluff, the Ghost Army was defenseless. Their most dangerous mission came in March 1945, Operation Viersen. The Allies needed to cross the Rhine River into the German heartland. A massive, deadly operation. The Ghost Army set up a massive fake crossing miles away from the real target. They inflated hundreds of tanks, blasted engine sounds all night long, constructed fake pontoon bridges out of wood. German artillery fell for it completely. They unleashed a devastating barrage of heavy fire, pounding the Ghost Army's position. Shells exploded around rubber decoys and speakers, while the Nazis poured their firepower into a phantom army. The real Allied divisions crossed the Rhine River miles away. Unobserved. Unopposed, casualties were remarkably low. The Ghost Army sat under actual fire, protecting real lives with inflatable rubber. Military historians estimate their trickery saved over 30,000 American lives. When the war ended, they couldn't celebrate. They couldn't tell their families what they did. The U.S. government stamped their records. Top secret. The soldiers went home, returned to art studios, returned to theater stages, keeping one of World War II's greatest secrets buried for over 50 years. It wasn't until 1996 that the mission was finally declassified. We tend to think of war in terms of firepower, armor, and destruction, but the Ghost Army proved something remarkable. Sometimes a needle, a pump, and a few artists can defeat an army. If you enjoyed uncovering this dark chapter of history, hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next dossier.